Is Ryan on?
Yep.
Ryan's on. Do we have our governor on yet?
I don't think he's on yet.
Okay. He'll be on.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
Yes, I am.
Ah,
Hey, everybody.
there- So we have both of our speakers on, and I know other people are going to jump on as we, in the next couple of minutes, but in the interest of time, I know everybody's busy and other people, that watching TV, hopefully will turn off the TV and join us and go back and watch it later. So we will go ahead and get started. And I just want to welcome everybody to the Democratic Women's Club of Coastal Virginia February meeting. I want to thank Lucas Anderton again as our IT guy. It's because of him that we can do these Zoom meetings. And thank you, Lucas. For those of you who are new, I am Bet Cake. I'm one of the co-coordinators of this wonderful group. And my other co-coordinator is Kim Rizzo, who unfortunately can't be with us today because she is a real estate agent and she had a client that was supposed to come from Florida to meet with her at 11 and he changed it to 3 o'clock. So she had to work today, but she asked me to give you her apologies. So, but we are incredibly honored today to have two super special people as our speakers. Our former governor, Terry McAuliffe, and Norfolk Councilwoman Andria McClellan. They are both running for office, statewide office, and they are, we're honored to have them here with us to tell us about their campaigns. So go right ahead. And Terry McAuliffe is a businessman and lifelong entrepreneur who served as the 72nd governor of Virginia from 2014 to 2018. In addition to being a prolific fundraiser for the Democratic Party, he was chair of the Democratic National Committee from 2001 to 2005, was co-chair of President Bill Clinton's 1996 re-election campaign and 1997 presidential inauguration, and was chair of Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign. He was a very popular and successful governor, and we are so excited that he's running for governor again now. So, Governor, take it away.
Well, Beth, thank you. It's great to be with everybody. It's great to see so many friends on the Zoom. And Lucas, thank you for getting this all together for us. Appreciate all your great work. And I see Sandra Brand. I just see so many old friends here. I just want to say it is great to be back with you again. As you know, I've announced for governor again. Make a little history here. We'd be the only Democrat since the Civil War to actually win twice, believe it or not. And I got to this place because a lot of supporters, folks have come out. And with COVID and others, they came and asked me, like Louise Lucas and a lot of members of the Black Caucus, and said, we need you to come back and run for governor again. It's going to be a very similar time. The last time I went in, as you all know, I inherited the largest deficit in the history of Virginia. I left the biggest surplus 4 years later, the most jobs ever created. But, I was also a bastion of protection for women's rights, LGBTQ rights. I had a really right-wing, wacky legislature, Republicans. I vetoed a record 120 bills, and I'm very proud of my small band of Democrats in the House. Only 34 Democrats when I took office, and I never lost a veto. I was 120 to 1. But, I replaced the Board of Health because the trap laws were to shut the women's 16 reproductive clinics down. I kept every clinic opened and vetoed all the bad legislation they had. So, we had a great run for progressive causes, but we also rebuilt the economy and created a lot of big, huge jobs. And with COVID, we're going to be back in a very similar type of situation. So I decided that I could have the biggest impact. The idea of having a Democratic legislature where I had a Republican legislature for 4 years, instead of doing a lot of defense on the social issues, I could do offense and we could get a lot of big, bold things done. So I've laid out a huge plan, a big, bold plan of where I want to take Virginia, just like I did in 13 with my business plan. I think it's very important that you people, candidates running for office, are very specific about what they plan on doing. And if you go to my website, Terry for Virginia, I lay out big, bold ideas. I talk about how I pay for it. If politicians don't tell you how they're going to pay for it, doesn't mean anything. And if you look at my education plan, I'm calling for a $2 billion investment. When I went in last time, even though I had a record deficit, I put $1 billion in education, redid all of our schools, and really brought us into the 21st century. But now we got to take our education system. If you look at average teacher pay in Virginia, we are 50th out of 50 states. That is a disgrace for the 9th wealthiest state in the United States of America. 50th out of 50. You could go to Maryland or Delaware or Pennsylvania today and get $20,000 more a teacher. So I talk about raising the teacher pay above the national average for the first time in Virginia history. And you wonder why we're down 1,000 teachers. So I've got a Lucy Sim scholarship. I talk about getting pre-K for every at-risk 3 and 4-year-olds, about 41,452 kids today. I talk about bringing broadband to every single child in Virginia because it's not fair, especially with COVID. They can't have any online learning. So I've got a big plan on education, huge plan on criminal justice reform. As you all know, I leaned in, became a national leader. I restored more felon rights than any governor in the history of the United States of America. And as you all know, Republicans sued me, took me to Supreme Court, sued me again for contempt of court. I'm the only governor to be sued for contempt of court. I loved it. And we ultimately won. And today, folks, there's 200,000 people that have the right to vote. Back again, real citizens. That's what I talk about when I talk about leaning in on big, bold issues. This had gone on for 116 years. I said, enough's enough. Took the Confederate flag off the license plate, banned it, banned the box on state employees. So, you know, we leaned in on a lot of big issues. So I received the Brick Wall Award every year from NARAL, Planned Parenthood, and really worked hard to make sure that we got Virginia to where it needed to be, that it was open and welcoming, treated everybody with dignity, respect, no matter whom you love or what church you go to. And when I left office, as you all know, I was named the outstanding elected official in the United States of America. And I want to take Virginia to the next level, and that's why I'm running again. Let me just say this finally. I appreciate all the work that all of you have done to help us in Virginia Beach. We got to get those seats back in the beach. We got to carry the beach this year. Delegate Askew, many of the folks in the area have already endorsed me. I've come out when I announced huge endorsement list. As you know, the most prominent African-American woman in the history of Virginia, Speaker Pro Tem, is the lead head of my campaign, as you know, Louise Lucas. Charnel Herring, the first African-American woman majority leader, is my other co-chair, along with LeVar Stoney, the mayor of Richmond. The first woman speaker in Virginia history has endorsed my candidacy. Nancy Pelosi endorsed me the other day, Hillary Clinton. So we've built a huge, broad coalition. And it's going to take that, because if you remember, for 44 years, whoever wins the White House, the other party wins the governor's mansion for 44 straight years. I am the only person to break that horrible curse. Of course, President Obama won in 12 and I won in 13. My point is, for the last 4 years, Donald Trump has driven our turnout. Democrats and independents came out in record numbers to support Democratic candidates in 17, 18, 19, 20. Donald Trump is now gone. We are going to have to work hard. We are going to have to motivate. We are going to have to build a gigantic coalition to make sure we keep the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And I'm nervous, there are probably 10 House of Delegates seats that are in play this year. And we got to win those, and we got to keep it. So I'm fired up. Big year for us all. Go big or go home, I always say. Sleep when you're dead. We got to do it. We got to take Virginia to the next level. And I just thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you. I love you all. Let's go. Game on.
All right.
All right. Sleep when you're dead, Bet.
Do you have a minute for a couple questions, or have you guys?
Sure. Whatever you guys want. Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody have a good question?
Sure.
Nobody has a question?
I would ask, I'm really interested in your goal for education, and if you might just speak about that a little bit more.
Yeah. And to me, there's nothing more important. So 180,000 Virginians have lost their jobs since COVID started. Very similar to when I came in 2013 because of sequestration. And sequestration really hurt the Virginia economy. We had not diversified. We were too dependent on the military assets. So I said, we got to build a new education system to recruit businesses. So if you all remember, I got rid of 5 SOLs. I brought creative thought process, cognitive reasoning, are all core curriculum. We're the first state to teach cybersecurity beginning in kindergarten. I want digital literacy to be in every grade in Virginia. But for me, the most important thing are the teachers. And we have, for our entire lives, we have paid teachers in Virginia below the national average.
Yeah.
As I say, on average pay, we're 50th out of 50. We are dead last. We are behind Alabama. We are behind Mississippi.
Mhm.
And we got to end that. So, you know, we got to recruit great teachers. I have this thing called Lucy Sims scholarships I'm proposing. Lucy Sims was born into slavery in Harrisonburg, went to Hampton, got her degree, went back and taught African-American children for the rest of her life. But if you are willing to come teach in Virginia in a high demand area for 5 years, we will pay all room, board, and tuition. So
Excellent.
it's a $2 billion a year investment. People say, well, how are you going to afford it? Well, there's a lot of ways, and I talk about how I'm going to pay for it. But if we have a good education system, we can recruit businesses. I mean, I'm the guy who wrote the bid for Amazon to get them to come to Virginia. I recruited Nestle Corporation to move out of LA. And the reason I was able to do that, thousands of huge high-paying jobs, was that they saw our investment in education. Jeff Bezos will tell you that Amazon, the thing they looked at in Virginia was our investment in K-12. So I really want to take it to the next level. As you all know, I was the most traveled governor in American history, 35 trade missions to 5 continents, to 81 countries, and recruited 1,100 companies to come back. I was able to do it because I could sell Virginia. You come and invest here. We are going to have a workforce for 20 or 30 or 40 years. So getting broadband access to every child, rural socioeconomic issues, we deal with those, paying our teacher pay, redoing our curriculum. I'd like to see Virginia be the #1 education state in the country. We have tried to do everything here on the cheap, the Virginia way. And with COVID, if we tinker around the edges,
Right.
we are going to lose out. And we need to think big and be bold.
So
Well,
how are you thinking
I
about
do
paying
have
for
to,
it?
sorry,
I'm
Bet, I have to pull the governor. We have another call after this. It's coming approach, so I do have to pull him. But I will
All right,
give
one
you,
more, Ryan, we'll go. Tell the
Okay.
next people, hey, I mean, listen, I got the best group in Virginia. You always are pushing me along here.
Well,
Anyone
I
else got
want to
another
say
question?
2 words.
Martha has a question.
Our governor
Yes.
is a man of his word. He wanted us to have better transportation, and now Amazon could have been here if we had followed what he had to say.
Amelia, how are you?
He's the man to bring that. It's
What's your
me,
question?
Amelia. I was just saying to you as a validation that you are a person of your word. And
Well, especially in that Hampton Roads. And
transportation.
thank you for the
Yeah.
endorsement. Appreciate
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
And transportation's a big thing. Last time we did $10 billion, the most ever. But I did a lot of public-private partnerships. I got rid of the tolls on the Martin Luther King Expressway, if you all remember. That was the
Yes.
worst deal I'd ever seen negotiated. So as governor, I just got rid of them. And
Good for you.
if y'all remember, I came down, I think of those 4 African-American women who had gone through the toll booths and they didn't have the new, and their
That's
fines
right.
were $3,000-4,000 each. They couldn't pay these. So I went down and ripped them up and said, we're not paying them here in Virginia. I told the CEO of over there in Australia, that's not how you treat us. By the time I got back to my office, he said, we're getting rid of all fines for everybody in Virginia. But you
4
know,
more years.
treating people with fairness and equity, that's what it's all about. But you got to be willing to dig in. You got to be willing to shake it up. Talk is cheap. Tell me what you've done and tell me what you're going to do for me.
That's it. Thank
Mark-
you.
All right. I guess Ryan's pulling me. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Let's go.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. All right. Thanks. Thanks,
Sure.
Bet. Thanks, Bet.
I know Martha had a question, but unfortunately he's got another meeting or something he's got to jump on. So
Yeah, let me put it out there, Bet, if you don't mind, for somebody else to answer down the road, but on the environmental issues and fracking, we've undone some of the damages done on regarding offshore drilling and such, but like fracking, I would like to have known where he stands on fracking. And also on regulating Dominion power and such. That was an article in the paper yesterday. So that kind of thing would interest me to have some answers on. But thank you for acknowledging me.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, he said to check his website, Terry for Virginia. And we will also be in close touch with Ryan Jackson, who's now working for him. You know, he worked for Bobby Scott originally, and then he worked for Warner's campaign, and now he's working for Terry's campaign. And he's a good buddy of ours. He actually came, he was actually scheduled to speak to us at that meeting that ended up getting canceled because of COVID. But yeah, we'll get those questions answered somehow, either on the website or, you know, maybe we can get them sent to us or something. But yeah, thank you for
Thank you.
and let's see, I guess we just go on and have our next super special speaker, Andria McClellan. We're so excited that she's here. Andria, we consider you one of our Demsels, and we know you have spoken to us at a luncheon meeting back in the wonderful days when we could have luncheon meetings in person. So we're definitely hoping that we can do that again in a few more months from now, hopefully. But so let me tell you, Andria McClellan is currently serving over 125,000 residents of Super Ward 6 on the Norfolk City Council. And she is the only candidate from Hampton Roads in the Lieutenant Governor's race. Andria brings more than 2 decades of business, nonprofit, and local government leadership experience to her campaign to serve the Commonwealth. And she is looking forward to being the first female lieutenant governor. She has been a speaker for our group, and we consider her one of us. So thank you so much, Andria, for being with us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Bet. Thank you. Hello, Demsels. Nice to see you. I had to explain to my staff what a Demsel was, which I think it's such a great name. It's unique. I don't know. Does anybody else use that, Bet, around the country?
That is a concoction from Kim Rizzo. She, instead of, I guess what somebody else was using, Dem women or Dem something, and she said, instead of damsels, we'll be Demsels.
Great. That's great. Well, I thought maybe I would start with telling you a little bit about my background. I actually grew up in Virginia Beach. My family moved here when I was 7 from Ohio for my dad's job. Unfortunately, a few years later, my dad left, and my mom, who is one of 8 kids herself, had never been to college before. She had never worked outside of the home, and she had to make ends meet. And so she attended 2 classes at Tidewater Community College and became a technical illustrator or a draftsman. As a result, for me, workforce development, supporting community colleges, CTE programs is really core to one of the things that I would like to do as Lieutenant Governor. And I look around at so many people who have either lost jobs, need to be retrained, upskilled. And I think that's a really important area where we focus some of our attention in 2021. So my mom did a great job raising us. She did work a lot. In addition to her full-time job, she worked at Hecht's department store, if you can remember that, in the evenings and on the weekends. And so for me, I was a latchkey kid of the 80s. I spent a lot of time at school as a result. I'd get there early, I'd stay late, whether it was the Latin Club or Thespians, or I was student council president at Green Run High School. I actually graduated in a class of 850 kids my senior year, an incredibly diverse class, socioeconomically, racially. The friendships that I still have today have really guided me and given me an appreciation for the diversity of what it is in Virginia Beach and throughout the Commonwealth. Fortunately, I was able to go to the University of Virginia with 4 years of work study programs and Pell Grants and student loans. And I graduated with a degree in Asian Studies. I studied Japanese, I studied history, and I studied business. And I wrote a senior thesis about American business in Japan. And somehow or another, I convinced a big Fortune 500 company to hire this crazy liberal arts major. And I started my career with Dow Chemical selling plastics. I'm now the anti-plastic person. I have my steel straw right here just to prove it. But I wore a hard hat in my own pink safety glasses. And I sold plastics from Erie, Pennsylvania to Long Island, New York, and met a lot of people who looked and act a lot like Governor McAuliffe, as a matter of fact. Most of my clients were my grandfather's age and predominantly men. But honestly, what I learned in that experience was how to solve problems, how to find resources, how to sometimes deliver hard news and not good news. And that's what I do today. As a local elected official, I'm trying to solve the problems of my constituents. From there, I went on to the University of Pennsylvania to the Wharton School and had the opportunity to get involved in the entrepreneurial side of the world. So I left corporate America and I ran 2 small startup companies from there. The second company was in 1999. My husband and I had moved back from LA so he could work for the railroads. And I had a 9-month-old. And I had the opportunity to write a business plan from my former mentor and investor. And I started a .com company, not in Virginia Beach where we were living, but in Alexandria, because we didn't have the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Hampton Roads at the time. So I'd leave 5 a.m. on Monday morning with a full-time nanny, and I would come home Friday nights at 8 p.m. because I was going to become the next Steve Case. I was convinced I was creating the next AOL. The company was called Civic Zone, and our tagline was connect to your community, which is sort of serendipitous because that's what I do now. We created websites and communication tools for public sector types of organizations. I had $1 million in angel funding. I had 22 employees, and I was going to make it. Unfortunately, in 2000, the tech bubble burst, and all of the calls that I was making to the venture capital firms, et cetera, were not being answered anymore. And like many other organizations, I had to declare corporate bankruptcy and lay off 22 employees. It was one of the hardest times of my life. It was incredibly humbling. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but I've taken that experience with me. And now I mentor and invest in young startup companies myself as a member of 757 Angels and 757 Accelerate. And I try and teach them the pitfalls so that they could avoid them themselves. So the other component for me, and one of my pillars that I want to focus on, is supporting small business, not only providing capital, but also the know-how and the wraparound services so that we can grow more companies. And for the companies that are struggling right now in this COVID economy, I think that's going to be more important than ever to have somebody who's had that experience. So I came back to Virginia Beach with my tail tucked between my legs and got involved with the local nonprofit communities. I had the opportunity to serve on the Samaritan House board. That was my first nonprofit board. And then from there, a lot of other organizations, the Up Center, WHRO, helping the Chrysler Museum, Norfolk Public Schools, et cetera. I had baby number 2 and baby number 3, and now I've got a 16, 19, and 22-year-old boys, my 3 sons. And I got more involved in politics in 2008 when this guy named Barack Obama ran. I became a precinct captain for the Norfolk City Democratic Committee. I had never canvassed. I'd never knocked on doors. I made phone calls, raised money, met new people, and got really excited and got involved in local politics and state politics and federal politics. I helped Ralph Northam when he ran for lieutenant governor as his campaign treasurer and briefly ran in 2013 for an open seat for his open seat for state senate. I came in third, but I immediately congratulated Linwood Lewis, and who's been a great senator and who's now supporting me and endorsing me in my campaign. In 2014 and 2015, I served as vice chair for the state party in finance. And then in 2016, I had the audacity of running against a 16-year incumbent in Norfolk for the city council. When I started to talk with folks in Norfolk, I had mixed reactions. A lot of folks said, yeah, you go get him. And several folks said, that's not how it's done here. You need to wait your turn. You'll never raise enough money. And we normally recruit a businessman and raise money for him. Note the pronouns. And I said, well, if I'm lucky enough to win, I look forward to working with you. I beat him in 19 of 23 precincts. And every one of those people who told me that has now donated to my campaign for lieutenant governor. So there. Now on city council, as Bet said, I represent about 125,000 people, half of the city. I also serve as the chair of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, which represents the 17 municipalities of our region, 1.7 million people. I'm vice chair of Hampton Roads Transit, where I'm focused on smart cities and innovation, and proud of the 6 electric buses that we've brought to the area that are running between Virginia Beach and Norfolk, I should say. And I'm also vice chair of the Southside Network Authority. And that's when I was last with you all, was when I was with Councilwoman Rosemary Wilson talking about our regional broadband ring. And as Governor McAuliffe said, the need to expand broadband in Virginia, I think, is our number one issue and would be my number one priority as your lieutenant governor. I think it not only affects education, it affects healthcare and the ability for telehealth and telemental health. It affects the ability right now to register to get a COVID vaccine. It affects the business community. It affects the agricultural community. It is the foundation and the link to our future. And we need to not only serve the unserved rural communities, but we've got to do a better job of addressing our urban communities like Virginia Beach and Norfolk, where in Norfolk we have 25% of our homes that don't have access to high-speed internet. It's not because it's not here, it's because it's not affordable. So we need competition and we need to have ubiquitous, high-speed, reliable, and affordable internet throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that'll be my number one issue. Number two issue, I've already mentioned, supporting small businesses and workforce development. Number three, Martha, you'll like to hear this, the environment. How do we reduce our carbon footprint and how do we mitigate flooding statewide? It's no longer just a coastal Virginia issue. Flooding is an issue in Stanton, Danville, Roanoke, Richmond, Alexandria. Because of the climate change effects on our weather patterns, we're seeing these rain bombs and the precipitation is just overflowing the rivers and the stormwater systems. And we've got to be addressing that. We've got to do both. We've got to address climate change mitigation, reduce our carbon footprint. We at the same time have to address adaptation measures, which in Virginia, we have not been doing because climate change isn't a future issue. If you go down the road right around the corner from my house, it's a sunny day and it's flooded several times a month. It is a now issue. So we've got to address that. And then the fourth thing, and I'll leave you with this, I want to focus on civic engagement. As Lieutenant Governor, I would like to be your next CEO or Chief Engagement Officer. Some of you may have attended in the past an event that I created almost 4 years to the day called Engage Norfolk. I was coming home on a train from the Women's March in 2017, and I was surrounded by women who were so excited, so depressed, but they wanted to do something. They wanted to get involved in the community. They knew they couldn't just sit back any longer, but they didn't know where to go. So in about 3 weeks, volunteers, a couple amazing folks from the area helped me to create this event. And we had over 1,000 people show up to the first event. And our theme was turn your passion into action. And we had over 100 organizations with volunteer opportunities, local, state, federal elected officials. And it's amazing how many people have never met their elected officials, and civic workshops. And I've held it every year for 4 years. This year, unfortunately, we should have had it last Sunday. We couldn't do it because of COVID. But I want to scale that idea of engagement because I think in Virginia, we have this human capital that exists in every part of our communities where we need to connect the dots between the people who want to help and the people who need the help. And we need to brand the state as the Commonwealth that cares because millennials and Gen Z, they want to live in communities where they can make a difference. So I think that's a win-win, and that's something that I would certainly love to have the opportunity to spend my time on. That's a little bit about me. I'm happy to stick around and answer as many questions as you have. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I know your background is fantastic. I will say personally that I was on an Emerge Virginia Zoom call that you and several other candidates were on, and I was very impressed with your answers to the questions. And I know we have, what, 5 people running for Lieutenant Governor now?
I wish that were the case. We have 8 people running.
8?
Well, there are 5 in the Republican side of the aisle, and there are 8 in the Democratic primary. There are 5 people in Northern Virginia, Bet. There's a delegate in Roanoke, 3 delegates in Northern Virginia, 2 other young men, and then there's a candidate in Richmond. I am the only candidate in the Hampton Roads area. I'm the only candidate who has elected local government experience, which we should talk about the COVID vaccine distribution. I feel very strongly that if we had somebody at the statewide level who understood how local government works, we would have been in a much better position as we started to distribute our vaccines. It's getting better, and the governor has appointed a local government liaison, but there were a lot of hiccups, and having that connection between what happens at the Capitol and what happens in our cities, towns, and counties is really imperative. And so I think I could bring that to the table as well.
That's good. Does anybody else have a question for Andrea? I know somebody's bound to. So,
Well,
well,
I have one.
okay, go ahead.
This is your friend. We
Hi.
both served on the Hampton Roads Transit, and she was one of the first people really pushing for smart transportation and smart city and that connection for time. So can you talk a little bit more about that value?
Sure. So listen, I think public transit is key to so many elements of what we need to be addressing. Number one, getting more people out of single occupancy vehicles and into public transit is absolutely the way to go in terms of reducing our carbon footprint. We need to address it from an equity standpoint to ensure that people have access to reliable, frequent transit. And it's an economic development issue as well. So I was really proud last year. I helped to advocate for the first ever regional transit funding. The way HRT works is we've got 6 cities, each of whom gets to determine how much service that they want. And there's no regional funding source ever. And because of a bill that passed with Delegate Askew and Senator Lucas, we now have a funding stream for regional transit funding that is going to generate something called 757 Express. It's going to start over on the peninsula initially, and that will start, I think, Amelia, is that 2023, and then it will come over to the south side. So we're really excited about that. We'd like to expand our electric buses, but most importantly, the thing that I talked about initially was everybody is used to now having access to transportation information on their phone. If they have an Uber or a Lyft, they could see where it is. And so we now have, after a couple of years of pounding on the table about this, you can see real-time information about HRT buses and when they're going to arrive. We'll be going to a mobile ticketing application soon. And as a part of that regional transit funding, you're going to see more bus shelters, clean bus shelters, better lighting, solar enabled lighting. So those are some of the things that I've been working on with Amelia Ross Hammond and others. Thank you.
Okay. So Martha,
Yes. I I have another question. And Andrea, I was sparked by your comments on public transportation. Can you hear me?
I gotcha.
Okay. I ride the Tide when I get a chance. It's not often. I live in the beach, but I love downtown Norfolk. I was born in Norfolk, and I love going down to Norfolk. But one of the things that really is a turnoff for me, and it's all throughout the city and the cities, but the Newtown station, the cigarette butt litter is horrendous. It's so nasty looking. The last time I rode it, it was like a deterrent to me to get back on the train. It just, it makes me sad. Now, it's not to say that that's the only place that it is, but and I know you're an environmentalist, and I walk a lot. I walk 7,000 steps a day through neighborhoods and the beaches and stuff. I pick up cigarette butts all the time. But is there anything that you can put in your pull out of your hat or try to address with it and tie it into public transportation or what have you, so that we can educate the public? These are clogging our systems. They're going out into our oceans and waterways and poisoning the environment. I don't see how it's sustainable. I really don't. And it's just one item, but it's the worst form of litter that exists. I think it's been well documented. It's horrendous. But I was prompted by I love to ride the train. I up in DC, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I don't like going and seeing that entranceway be like it is. So
I would say, unfortunately, that's not unique. A lot of our bus shelters have that issue throughout the region. And this is one of the things that we really pushed on with this new regional transit funding, is to increase funding for shelters that are clean. And so that we increase our cleaning services. Certainly we can try and do a better job educating our riders as well with public information campaigns. But I will tell you, as a council person, litter is an issue that we talk about all the time. And I was just, where was I driving? I was coming off at the Newtown exit off of 264, and I was at the light about to take a left. Oh, I was going out to the petition signing event on Saturday. I was horrified by the amount of litter, the plastic bottles, the plastic bags, the trash.
It's getting all, it's just beyond, we're like third world nation
It was
approaching.
really bad. So I think having it, putting more focus on a litter campaign in general is a great idea. I know there's some legislation that passed last year to increase the amount that goes to the litter fund. But for me, I think ending the use of single-use plastics is really where we ultimately need to go. Fortunately, the General Assembly passed last year the ability for a municipality to ban plastic bags, single-use plastic bags. So I've been trying to get that on the agenda in Norfolk, by the way. We haven't gotten there yet.
Keep
In
going.
Norfolk, I can't put something on the agenda. It only gets put on the agenda if our mayor and vice mayor want to put it on the agenda. So we don't have that ability to introduce legislation. That's another discussion. But I think really focusing on single-use plastics, plastic bottles, the recycling rate. I mean, I think you need to involve the beverage community, the actual, and I know Coke has there's a bunch of different bottlers who are talking about, you might have seen the commercials where they're trying to collect every bottle back. Oregon has the Oregon Bottle Bill. They recycle 90% of their plastic bottles. So
in Europe, there's a system where you can put it in a slot and it gives you money back, or somehow or another, they're buying the stuff back.
So I would definitely want to focus on that, but recycling is such a great thing and it makes us all feel really good about the environment, but we also need to be addressing transportation. We need to be addressing our buildings, and you've got to think about where the actual carbon footprint sink is, and also look at decarbonization in other areas as well as carbon capture. So I serve on the Chesapeake Bay program, local government advisory committee focused on the water quality in the Bay. I'm also worried about water quantity as flooding, serving on the joint committee on flooding at the state level, the American Flood Advisory Board. So there's just a lot of things to be doing. Thank God for this new administration.
Amen.
Somebody who believes in science,
Amen.
who is going to focus on the environment as one of the key issues, and climate change is real. I mean, I couldn't be happier. And it's infused in the entire system. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, he's going to be focusing on climate change.
And Andrea, I'm fairly new here from Maine, and we've had the bottle return thing for decades, and kids pick them up to get the nickels for each bottle in the summer, and they're gone. And it's really, I mean, and it's sort of second nature. I can decades, literally. So there are a lot of good models there.
I think that we've got to look at what's not working now is what we have.
Yes.
And recycling in general, I feel that it can't be done municipality by municipality. I really feel, because after China soared, after China basically said, we're going to close down our borders, the ability to make any money off of recycling became very problematic. In a lot of communities, they just stopped altogether. But we have to be more intentional about our recycling. We have to understand what goes in the recycling bin. I think we probably should go back to sorting recycling in order for it to be effective, because so much of it is actually just thrown out.
Oh, I know.
So, yeah, Barbara, we could talk about this for hours. I'm glad. Well, welcome from Maine to Virginia. At least your winter's a little bit warmer.
Thank you. Yes, it's very important. So, another question?
I wanted to ask, you mentioned the tide. What do you think the future is of the tide and any expansion of, that rapid transit kind of thing in this area to different parts of our state and different states?
So locally, we are in the second phase of an expansion study in Norfolk to look at the eastern expansion, which would likely go from Newtown up Military Highway, Little Creek to the base. So that is underway right now in the environmental element. As it relates to transit elsewhere, I'm a big fan of bringing a third train, which is available from Norfolk up through Richmond to DC. I happen to know a guy who's involved with the railroads, my husband. And so they're working on another train that would go out to Christiansburg. The Virginia Railway Express, I think, is great. That said, COVID has hit transit hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And so while I'm a big fan, I think we're all taking a bit of a breath because the ridership is down significantly, and we're still not sure where things are going to go as it relates to transit ultimately. But listen, I'm really big on the idea of electrification of our fleet. And so I've driven an EV electric vehicle for 2.5 years. I'm a huge fan. I see Laura Huber on here. Yay, Crocs, who has
Yeah.
charging stations. Um, but as we do this, recognize that we pay for our infrastructure, our roads and our bridges through gas taxes. So as we start to electrify more, we're going to have to go to more of a vehicle miles traveled idea. And so Virginia's starting to figure out some different modes to get us to that point. I think Virginia should join the TCI, the transportation. Oh my gosh, it's sort of like RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, but it's for transportation. It's basically trading tax credits based on the use of gasoline for automobiles, for internal combustion engines. Virginia had the opportunity to join it, and we took a big pause this year. So I'd like to see more of that. There was legislation passed to encourage more car dealers to offer EVs. General Motors announced about a month ago that they're going to phase out all gas engines by 2035. So it's exciting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity, but there's a lot of questions, and it's going to take a little while to get there. You know, where do you charge them if you don't have off-street parking? What if you live in an apartment building? We've got to think about all of those elements as well, but I'm excited that we're moving in that direction. And then we've got to start to address our building codes to make sure that we are we're building sustainable buildings and buildings that are energy efficient. And that's another piece of the puzzle that I'd love to focus on. So let's talk real quickly. What does the lieutenant governor do? Does anybody know?
A lot of things if you want to.
Yes.
Hi.
With Secretary Pete, with doing transportation, I think a lot of those things we're going to have a lot of good things to look forward to. I know they were talking to him about, the electric cars and the, the trains. So
yeah.
Well, be really excited to see what he comes up with, because he's, he's a brilliant person, and I think everybody's going to enjoy working with him too. So
he's making transportation cool again.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess I would just point out that, the lieutenant governor presides over the Senate, breaks ties. So you need to have a good Democrat in there. And then 9.5 to 10 months of the year, you're the wingman to the governor, whoever he or she is. And, I love the fact that Governor McAuliffe is talking about economic development, education. Those are all things that are, near and dear to my heart. And I think I would be a great complement to some of the things he's talking about, as well as to the other candidates. And I think we need to be really careful about having the right ballot in November. And so, listen, the primary is June 8th. The ballots start going out April 24th. So we're talking 2.5 months from now. And I think you need to have diversity on this ticket. I think there should be geographic diversity. I think there should be gender diversity. And I think there should be racial and ethnic diversity. I don't know if we'll get all of that. And I don't provide all of that. But I provide 2 of the 3. And I'm very qualified. So hopefully I'll have your support. I would love to, we're going to put some information. Jim is here, my communications director. He's going to put some information in the chat about my website. If you'd like to get involved with petition gathering, by the way, I think some of you have helped. Thank you very much for any of the petition porch gathering that you have done. There will be an option in the near future for digital petition collection. It's a little clunky. The state's still trying to figure it all out. Of course, donations make the world go round. I'm going to need to get my name out in other communities. We're doing fairly well in fundraising, but not Terry McAuliffe well. So if you have some extra change in your couch cushions, please send it my way. And thank you just for the opportunity to be here, Bet. I really appreciate everything that y'all do. So great. And I'm sorry I can't be here on a regular basis, but I love getting your emails and keeping up with what's going on.
Oh, well, we're so happy to have you. Thank you for, spending time with us today. I think think everybody, hopefully everybody is impressed like I am. And just knowing that you're one of us is exciting. So we're going to stay in touch, and I know we'll, and you stay in touch with us too. If there's something, there's a virtual activity that we can join in on or whatever, make sure we are invited, and we will spread the word and everything. So
That's great. And shout out to Lucas Anderton, one of the best and brightest in Hampton Roads in Virginia, probably. So
Thanks, Councilwoman. I appreciate it.
good to see you.
we agree with that. Thank you so much, Andrea. And talking about next month, we do have a lot of other candidates that we can invite to speak. Like Andrea said, she's the only lieutenant governor candidate from our area, but there are a whole bunch, obviously, 7 others around the state, and several others for governor as well. And I don't know how many, does anybody know how many for lieutenant governor, for attorney general? Just 2? Jay Jones and Gary? Are they the only 2? Okay. But, well, Jay Jones is a local, so we might be able to invite him. And, I would like some input from the rest of you on what other potential candidates we want to try to get on one of our meetings. We'll have March, April, and May before the June primary. So we've got 3 more meetings that we can invite other candidates to. So I know we'll probably invite Jay Jones since he's a local, and we'll just, we'll see how many other ones we can fit in between now and June. Please, offer your suggestions on that. And does anybody else have any thoughts or questions or anything to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
Is it like new business?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, first off, hats off to Councilwoman Andrea. She won the online Twitter poll through Virginia Political News, so she's looking really good and strong. So congratulations, Andrea.
That's good.
Thank you.
And let's see. Well, I'm going to run for Virginia Beach Democratic Chair. So if you're not a member, you might want to join and put your application in to be a member, because the voting will be on February 22nd. We have a really important moment. We have some really important elections, and we just need to get this local Virginia Beach Democratic Party back on track and open to all shades of blue, right? We've got light blue and turquoise blue, and so we just need to really come together, and so I'm excited to do that.
Okay.
Yes. So do you have to join again? Do you have to have joined again by January if you joined last year? What is the term run? Because I know I joined last year, but I don't know if I have to renew it right away or not.
Yeah, exactly. I believe Lucas can probably insert some information in the chat, but there's really a special election for a chair and vice chair that's going to be happening next week. So you'll want to.
I don't know where would we find an application to join? I'm not familiar.
If you look up vbdc.org, I think there's a membership thing you can click on and join right online. But and I'll look at that, because I don't know if I joined last year. I don't know if I'm still a member, if I have to join again now that it's a new year. But yeah, just go to vbdc.org and there's a membership thing to click on.
So
right.
For existing members, our understanding right now is that if you joined last year, you are a good standing member until April. So we are going into the meeting thinking that if you don't re-up, you're fine. But I will drop the membership link in the chat. It doesn't hurt to refill it out, since dues are voluntary and you'll have to do it by April 1st anyways. So I would go ahead and do it, and I would do it before this Friday, because that is what they're saying, the drop dead deadline to join to vote in the chair election is this Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll drop the link in the chat.
Good, that's good information. And have we been sent anything about who the candidates are? I know I saw Kelly Fowler's Facebook thing, but do we know what other candidates are listed yet?
Not yet. We should know today at 5 o'clock is the deadline, so we'll find out who are putting their hats in the ring.
Okay, so I guess there'll be an email sent out to everybody to tell us all that, right? Hopefully.
Hopefully, you never know. Well, we'll keep the Coconut Telegraph going here with all us women and stay in touch. And
very good. Thanks, Laura. I appreciate that. Yep. And thank you for your hard work. You've been doing a great job on environmental issues, and so we're very proud of you.
Well, I'm a big fan of Andrea.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments from anybody?
I have an unrelated question. My city council member in Virginia Beach is Lewis Jones for Bayside. Has there been any talk of someone running against him into the next time he's up for re-election, or has he been pretty much uncontested?
So if I could chime in, Bet, he had someone run against him last time who was a staunch Republican and a leader in the local Republican Party. So Lewis sort of clung to the middle and was trying to play both sides a little bit. And he has just made it clear to a lot of folks he is running for re-election again. So, which was unexpected. So if anyone knows anyone, 2022, the Bayside district, so the northwest corner of the city, we need a candidate.
Hey, Lucas, are you saying that Brad's going to run again or Lewis?
No, I don't know if Brad's going to run again. I just know that, Brad had run last time, and I think that was even Brad's second time running.
Right.
So,
but didn't you just say you said somebody made it clear that they were going to run again?
Lewis made it clear. Folks thought that this was Lewis's last time because he sort of mentioned that last time that this was probably his last time, and he's now running again. So
either I'm going to run or I'm going to throw my whole life into helping someone else. So anyways, let me know if you hear anything and I'll do the same.
It's so funny that this came up because I'm a neighbor of Brad's and I fear that he's going to try to take over Lewis's seat. And he's we need to have somebody in our side working on this because Lewis probably won't be able to get reelected. And I'm afraid that Brad would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for that information. So,
and Abby, we're still working for our wonderful Congresswoman, aren't you?
I am through February, but I actually am moving on soon.
Something else? Oh, okay. Well, just tell her we're proud of her and we think she's doing a great job.
All right, I will. See you Friday.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and we will, I guess everybody will stay tuned to the impeachment proceedings in the Senate. And I have some people that I am on a Facebook group thing with. It's actually a Facebook Messenger group thing with a bunch of people from Florida, Democrats in Florida. And a couple of those women actually think that the Republicans are going to come around and convict him. And I'm like, I'm glad you have faith in that because I don't know if I have faith in that.
What? What's going on?
Say that again?
Barbara's mic was unmuted, and I think someone was summoning her.
Has anybody seen the cat Zoom?
Yes. That was a great one.
I'll put it in the link. This gentleman appears to be, sounds to be an older gentleman who was appearing in court, and he had some sort of cat filter, and he couldn't figure out how to stop it.
It was a riot. It's a riot. It's so funny.
I think he was using his sister's computer, and her daughter or granddaughter had the cat filter there when he logged on, and he didn't know it and didn't know how to stop it. It is funny, very funny.
It's in the chat. I want to figure out how to get that cat filter.
I want a dog one. I want to figure out how to do it. Anything but my face.
Ladies, I have to jump. Thank you again for having me. And please reach out anytime related to the Lieutenant Governor campaign, HRT, Southside Network, vaccine distribution, regional issues. I'm happy to talk about anything. So my email, I'll put it in real quickly. I'm going to type my personal email too. Jim, don't get mad at me. Just using my campaign stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, we will probably call on you at some point. That's gonna be, we'll look forward to seeing you again, definitely. All right. All right. So I thought that was a really good meeting. Did everybody enjoy that?
Yes,
Good.
absolutely.
So please let me know what other gubernatorial candidates you'd like to hear from next in the next couple months, and what other lieutenant governor candidates you'd like to hear from. And then we will see. Maybe we can even get Lieutenant Attorney General Herring, as well as Jay Jones, who's running for Attorney General. Maybe we can get both of them on at some point. But our policy is we don't have two people for the same office at the same time. We try to have.
Oh.
Barbara?
We could have a debate. We could just do a debate.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless the problem with that is you probably need to have more than two at a time. You know, we probably need to have.
We could leave Lucas sort of, fielding the. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, anyway, send me your ideas, and we'll see what we can. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you for doing this.
And really quick, Bet, before you wrap up, I would just challenge everyone to send Bet the email address for a fellow Democratic friend of yours in Virginia Beach who has not joined us for these meetings. Just so as we invite these candidates, we can make sure that they get to talk to a big crowd of Hampton Roads women. So
will do.
Yes.
Thank you.
I wonder.
Yeah, over the couple of years, Tim and I have been doing this. We've actually added from the list that Dottie began with, we've actually added, I think, at least like 60 people. So, people have said, hey, add my friend so-and-so, or somebody will email us and say, put me on the list. I want to be part of your group. And so we now have on our email list, we have 159 names. And in our Facebook group, we have 106 people now, and they're not all the same people. We have different people. I mean, we have some of the same people in both groups, but there are, different ones in each group too. So the more the merrier. Send us more names and email addresses and whatnot. Yes, Jan?
I wonder if a lot of people maybe aren't here because of the impeachment thing. I mean, it's really hard not to be watching that. So, but I don't know whether I'm the only one who feels that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for me, it was a little better when it was over the lunch hour, late in the afternoon, in the middle of like the work afternoon. It's kind of tricky to make work.
It's
but
tough.
I am, depending on how many working folks, I don't know who really participate, but.
Well, it does affect. Yes, I teach piano lessons and I try to move them around on this date so I could be here.
Yeah, and I'm a mediator, and most of my clients prefer late in the afternoon from 3, 4, and 5. So this is my first meeting in months because I'm usually booked.
It's good to see you.
So, and Lucas reminded me that our wonderful Congresswoman Elaine Luria, who's been with us several times, has endorsed Andrea for Lieutenant Governor. So that's a big deal. So, we will definitely be hearing more from Andrea, I'm sure. But yeah, so send me, any suggestions that you have and any names of people that want to be added to our list. And what I try to do when I get a new name, I try to send it specifically to them and say, your name was given to us by so-and-so. If you don't be added to our group regularly, let me know, and that kind of thing. So